Good morning. We're glad to see you here for chapel this morning. We have a more promising day, the way the sky looks and as far as the weather is concerned. And so that makes us feel pretty good, I think. We're glad to have you here and welcome to this day. Our speaker today is Ray Hedstrom. We've had some illness that caused this change, and he was willing to step in, and so we very much appreciate him being here and giving us the message today. I want to thank Tim Ritchie Martin for taking care of the tech and Jeanette for her beautiful music on the piano. If we would take the blue hymnal and turn to number 193, I think, Silent Night. I believe it's, I don't really have it written down here. I think that's Silent Night. 193, yes. So we give a warm welcome to Ray Hedstrom, and we'll hear what he has message to give to us today. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you for the beautiful music. You sit across the basketball court from me and you never told me you could do all this stuff. So there you go. Thank you very much. We get caught for the national anthem sometime. You're on, you know that. We got this. Well, I'm not sure what God's plan is for me to speak today. I've got something I'm going to speak about, don't worry. I'm not going to live the whole thing, obviously that. But God has sent me here on quite of an interesting journey. As you know, I was supposed to be here Friday, and about 7:30 in the morning, I was going to go get the paper, and I walked out into the garage to change shoes, and wound up putting my head through the glass on the front of a cabinet, and in the front, in the garage. And through the help, excellent care of my wife, my son, I made it to the Walnut Tree Clinic, and my daughter-in-law and her assistant Teresa took care of me, and I wound up with 15 stitches in my head. And so it didn't make me any wackier than I usually am, but I spent the weekend, and one of the concerns I had was, number one, I was laying on the floor, and I remember thinking, I broke that glass in that case. That glass has been in that case for about 100 years. I've protected it and everything, and now I'm the guy that smashed it, and that's not very good. And then it was like, there's a lot of blood here. And the two things I had was, one, I was going to speak at chapel. And the other thing was I was going to announce the basketball games this weekend. And so my wife took care of that, called people, and so got somebody to come in and speak. And at the chapel, the substitute teacher came in and spoke at the chapel, which I'm the substitute teacher today. And so then they got somebody to substitute for the basketball game to announce for me, which I dearly love. Well, the girls were not real successful on Saturday. The guys, a kid scores 52 points for our team. Another kid scores 26 points, gets 18 rebounds and 12 assists. And his 52 points was the second highest ever scored by a Manchester Spartan. And I wasn't there to see it. So that's okay. So I'm thinking, well, okay, I'll do this and think about this later on speaking at chapel. And then last night I got a call and they said, can you help out? So I figured, yeah, I can do that. So here I am today. And I'm going to talk about traditions. And I'm a traditional kind of guy. I love the hymn this morning. They were going to do Joy to the World on Friday, I think it was, and that's a traditional hymn. And I thought that would be pretty much what would be my kind of thing. I like some of the new Christmas stuff, but I like the traditional hymns and things like that. And I was looking in the paper the other day, and Oscar Wilde is quoted as, "Memory is the diary that we all carry around with us." Khalil Gibran wrote, "Yesterday is but today's memory, and tomorrow is tomorrow's dream." Words from people much smarter than me, that know a lot more and that are a lot more well known. I was an econ teacher, among other things. I started out as a typing teacher and a business teacher, and then I wound up teaching business and computers and economics. And one of the things we talked about was a traditional economy. And the kids we'd show videos, and it was some pocket in a rainforest someplace in South America, and it was a group of natives that lived all cut off from the rest of the world. How they got the videos of them, I'm not sure, but they were cut off from the rest of the world, and they did things that they had always done them. They would go out and hunt animals with sticks and different things, and it was just, I always thought it was kind of fascinating with that. And then we talked about traditions like at school. And what were some of the traditions at school that we had? Some things that showed up and that made our school run along. And one of them was homecoming. And so we would talk about the homecoming traditions, and there was a parade, the queen, and the homecoming game and all that. And then I would explain to them a little bit about the tradition at Manchester in the 60s was initiation of students, freshmen, Rhineys. And we were initiated. Now, it had to do with you had a senior, and he would have, in our case, it was he. I don't know if the women went through this so much, but the guys did. And the dorms or the clubs would initiate people, and they would have that. And you had a senior you were assigned to for homecoming week, and you had to carry their books or their girlfriend's books or shine their shoes, wash their car, all this kind of stuff. I was also on the football team. And believe me, the football initiation was a little more stringent than the rest of it. And it was an interesting time. I remember it would happen on Thursday after practice, and all the seniors all the upperclassmen would go in, and the freshmen would stay outside and scrimmage or whatever the coaches had run or whatever the coaches had for us. And so we would do that, and then they would take us in. And the initiation we had, oh, believe me, had much less clothing and much more humiliation than the rest of the initiations. But we knew at the end of that, we were Spartans. That's when we became Spartans. And guys that had been beaten up on us, they still kept beating up on us, but they still called us Rhineys until the end of the year. But we were Spartans at that time, and that was exciting for us to get that done. My friends in Nicaragua, and I was in Nicaragua the week after Thanksgiving, on December the 7th, they have a special tradition that they call Purisima, and it is a celebration of Virgin Mary. And I've always said it's kind of a cross between Christmas and Halloween. You decorate up, and the town decorates up for Christmas because it kind of ramps up for that, and the government, just so they think the people are caring about them, put big decorations on the main street and they block it off, and it's kind of an interesting thing. And at night, it's all lights and fun. But on Purisima, you decorate a little bit in front of your house. You put a crèche or something like this, or usually business have them, and then people come around and then they sing. And if you sing, you get candy or a little gift or something like this. So I've always thought it's kind of like Christmas and Beggar's Night. You go around and do that, and it's an interesting thing. I've been down there a couple times for it, and it is kind of fascinating to watch. Well, we have many family traditions that we go through. Some families' birthdays become a big tradition, and they're a special time to celebrate. Funerals, they become a tradition. There are things. I had a friend that was in the military during the Vietnam War, and while he was stationed stateside, his job was to, when the remains of a serviceman or one of them was sent back, he and his partner would stay with that, and this, when it was sent back to their area, would stay with that, and they would be at the beck and call of the family. Whatever they needed, they were there. They were there all the time. They were there for the viewing, the funeral, and all the stuff and everything to do to represent the military. And he said they had a viewing for a guy one night, and afterwards, people were around, and during the wake, and one of the uncles came up and he said, it's our tradition in our family that after we have a wake like this, the men in the family go out. And you're invited to go out with us, so we want you to go out. Okay, so they went out. And believe me, the celebrating lasted well into the morning. And he said the funeral was kind of foggy, but he did remember some of it. But it was quite a tradition that they had with that. My family has a tradition that the guys in the family, the uncle and the cousins, whatever, for a wedding, we always give the groom money to take his bride out for breakfast the next day. That was just something we came up with. And we said, here, we're going to do this. And so it makes kind of a nice little tradition to do that. We have 4th of July. I can remember 4th of July tradition was Uncle Ray or me bought the fireworks. And my in-laws lived in a little farm outside of Goshen. And we would set the fireworks out on the road. And I would go and spend way too much money on fireworks. And a lot of them were set them off. And I can remember a few times it was, hey, look out, run. And people were dodging and things like this. But we had a great time with that. But even traditions change and evolve because of things around us. They change because of families. Think about your family things that have changed and evolved because people have died, people have grown, kids have grown up, and people have moved away and different things like this. Circumstances way outside of our control. I'll think about a couple of years ago, maybe 4 years ago, when we were going through, first starting into the COVID thing. And how traditions change and became so much different at that time. This is a writing from November 26, 2020, A Different Thanksgiving by Ray. Just the two of us for lunch. The food was delicious, and we had way more than enough. We missed being with the kids, though. I'm sure it was all for the best. The Macy's parade wasn't really a parade at all. No fans at the Lions game. Of course, they lost anyway. People were encouraged to stay home. I know it was a pain, but I hope that people did. Of course, none of the holidays are the way they used to be. Grandma and Grandpa's house, Mom and Dad's house, on Winter Green and on Walker Streets, my in-laws' house were such very special places. Everyone together for a whole day. Let the fun begin. No fear of infecting or becoming in contact. When we get to the new normal, many things will change. I pray that sacrificing family gatherings is not one of them. So many memories and precious times would be missed. To get back to laughing, talking, hugging, and touching, I can't get enough of all of that. This year taught us to adapt and find out what was really important. We can do without some things, but only for a short haul. Not this way again, please. Been there, done that. Pass the mashed potatoes, please. Well, traditions have helped bring us back to a normal. from the COVID time. And it's interesting how we talk about, well, pre-COVID or during COVID or after COVID. And that was a block in our lives we didn't like living through, but we made it. And we look at those things and we say that we can identify stuff by that. And when you talk about pre-COVID, you know what that was, and you say, well, think about COVID. And that was, we knew what that is. And now we're moving back toward that normal, and the traditions are helping. And this time of year is such a special time for traditions. What a wonderful thing. And, it's bringing us back together and things like this. Andy Williams told us it's the most wonderful time of the year. Santa told Ralphie, yeah, you're going to shoot your eye out, kid. Yogi Jorgensen said, I used to go nuts at Christmas. It's the best time of the year. Scrooge said, bah, humbug. What a great time for traditions. The tree. Think about that. It's interesting how you watch some of the house hunter movie things on HGTV, and people will say, they look at a house and go, well, we can put the Christmas tree over there. But like that's a deal breaker where the Christmas tree is going to go. But you have those special ornaments. I have one of my tree that I've been putting on my tree for probably 70 years. A blue, and it's scratched and it looks ugly and it's not the same as the others, but it is my special ornament, and it's hangs there very special on the tree. I think of Christmas and my dad fighting with the Christmas tree lights. Remember those? The old lights that always came out. Didn't matter how hard you tried to put them in the box or whatever, they always came out in a knot. And if you had one light that was out, the whole string didn't work. And I can remember my dad, not going ho, 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 but trying to figure those lights out. And he worked at it, and I think it was kind of a sense of pride. Once you got the lights to work, that was the thing. And for our Christmas tree, for me, that was very special. I was about 4 years old, and I got a Lionel train for Christmas. My dad was a railroader, and so that's why I got a nice Lionel train. And every year, the Lionel train went underneath the tree. We decorate the tree and everything, and then put the Lionel train underneath it. We lived in a little 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house in Michigan City, a tract home, and there wasn't room enough, but that train was always there. And we would run that train and just have a wonderful time with it. I can remember we used to get the tinsel off of the tree. Remember when it was just made out of metal? If you put it on the track and the train went over, it made nice sparks. And my dad, one time, the train wasn't running right. And so he took the bottom, he took the screw out, and he opened it, and there was just all kinds of carpet fuzz and everything else in there. And he said, you've been running this on the carpet? It must have been Barbara. It wasn't me, Dad. I didn't do that. So that was it. Well, you'd go out and buy a tree. You'd do all the stuff. And for my family, one of the things, my mother worked at the catalog department at Sears Roebuck in Michigan City for years and years. She was head of the department. She started out at Sears as a temp during Christmas rush, or during Christmas time, working in the toy department. And they had the iconic big Lionel display in the middle of the toy department, which they didn't have a toy department the rest of the year. But that was the thing that was really something. You would go down. And about the middle of November, you got the very special thing, the wish book came in the mail. And boy, you spent the next 2 weeks going through that wish book, because you knew on Thanksgiving, Grandma and Grandpa were going to say, give me your Christmas list. Okay, so that was it. And you did that, and it was a very special thing. And boy, you would pour through that, look at that, and mark pages, different things like this, and have all your lists and have everything made up. And then on Christmas, you hoped you got at least some of it. Not like the underwear you got from your Aunt Lou, but that was it. Okay. For me, I can just give you a little glimpse of what the Hedstrom Christmas was like. We always celebrated Christmas on Christmas Eve. That was just our family tradition. And we did that. I don't remember doing it any different. And we would go to my grandma and grandpa's house. I had a very small extended family. My mother had no brothers and sisters. My dad had one brother. And he and his wife had 3 girls. So I only had 3 cousins. And we would go to Grandma and Grandpa's house, and boy, it was a very special time. There was other times we went there, but when you went for Christmas, it was very special. My family has a Swedish heritage, and we celebrated with Swedish food. There was a thing called lutefisk. It was a white fish in a white sauce. And I know that everybody except those that ate it just could almost complain about the smell. And it was not a very pleasant smell, but that was a very special thing. And we had potato sausage that my dad would make, and his cousin would make a veal loaf. And his cousin lived in Portage, and so they kind of had a trade there. Dad would make some potato sausage, take it out to him, and cousin Sigurd would give him veal. And we would have this special thing, and then we would go to up into Michigan to a Swedish bakery and get special Swedish rye bread. My grandma would make fruit soup. My grandpa would have eggnog, and once you got maybe out of high school, there might be a little extra in your eggnog that made the day go cheery and bright. But it was one of those things that will only happen one time a year, and it was a very, very special tradition for us. And then after the dishes were all done, we'd sit around, and then late afternoon, Grandpa would disappear someplace, and all of a sudden Santa's reindeer bells would be heard on the porch. And he had a string of sleigh bells, and then it was ho, 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 Merry Christmas. And we knew then that it was time for the family to share gifts, and that was a very special time, and you did that. One of the special times that the family talked about for a long time was the time my grandmother got her china. And the china came, for whatever reason, in burlap bags filled with Excelsior, the stuff, that it got all over, and it was quite a mess. But it was filled with Excelsior, and so there was about 5 bags, and they took all the china out, had it on the table, were looking at it and everything. And so the kids see these 5 bags are filled with this stuff. Hey, it's a good thing. Let's jump into that. So we started jumping on it, hopping around and everything. And finally, Grandma says, "Where's the gravy boat?" Wonder where the gravy boat might be. Yeah. Okay, so they started digging through the Excelsior, and they found it. It survived. What a Christmas miracle for the Hedstrom family. But it survived, so that was it. And so that was one of the very special things. And then after that, we would go home and share our family gifts. And then after that, it was go to the Zion Lutheran Church and have midnight service. And at midnight, you would sing Silent Night. And what a very, very special time. I remember in 1968, that's going to be a little hard to tell this story. In 1968, I was reading the Chicago paper. My dad always brought home the Chicago paper. And in the Chicago Sun-Times, there was Mike Royko had an article. And in that article, he gave the story of a single mother that had a son in Vietnam. And she said, "I sent my son a package, and in it I hid a little bottle of alcohol, like you would used to get on the airplanes. Said I put that little bottle of alcohol in there, and I told my son, at midnight, our time, drink that, and we'll have a drink together." And I remember thinking about that at midnight, that in 1968, and what a very special time that was for me, thinking about that mother and her son. Well, one of the traditions we always had was take the family photo at Christmas. And so for me, I have come with this, I have another writing, and one of the things, this is just a family photo for me. Corky, you might relate to this some. The Man in the Middle by him. I remember those pictures. Lots of family members all trying to smile at the same time. Maybe there was a Christmas tree, a piano, or some pictures on the wall in the background. I was tall and always stood in the back. Families were grouped together. Year after year, the people aged and the children got bigger. It was fun for comparison, but one thing stayed the same. The oldest sat in the middle, in the front row. Through time and attrition, I get to be the man in the middle chair. I'm glad to be here to do what then again, and the only ability you need is to earn it is availability. Just hang around long enough and the job is yours. It is a pretty cozy spot with all those around you. It is a place of honor and respect. Of course, there are some responsibilities that goes with it too. So for me, I will enjoy the chair and the special spot. But mostly, I will enjoy all those people in the picture with me. Smile, click. I think with the snow out there, we should be singing Snow like they did in the movie White Christmas. Kind of a special thing. Well, one of the traditions that we have is we watch things on TV, we watch movies, we watch special programs, and some of us watch the Charlie Brown Christmas, and we like that. And what a special time and a great tradition is at the end, when Linus says, "And there were shepherds living in the field nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, 'Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in swaddling clothes and lying in a manger.' Suddenly a great company of heavenly hosts appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, 'Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to those to whom he favors.'" Whatever your traditions are, enjoy them. Think back on them, reflect on them. Some have changed, but you have those in your heart. I wish you peace and happiness this time of year. Thank you very much.
Well, in the book is away in the manger, and but I think that traditionally we should sing the one that we know best. Oh, well.